Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's weekend workshop on women and wealth, how to future-proof your finances. We're so thrilled today to have Simone and Lori today, who are presenting from BMO. It is a pleasure to have everyone on the call here today, no matter where you're connecting from. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Carrie Ramsey, and I'm the project manager for the WeCan project, which is led by Queen's University and is funded by FedDev Ontario through the Women Entrepreneurship Strategy Ecosystem Fund. And we've done over 70 of these virtual workshops since COVID began. At this point, there has been so much learning, so many opportunities to network, share ideas, share solutions. So during the presentation today, I'm going to make sure to drop a link into the Zoom chat about which other workshops are coming up so that you make sure not to miss them. As well, I'll put my email address in case you'd like to be on our e-newsletter list, and then you'll just get notifications right to your inbox, which is often helpful as well. So why don't you take a moment right now to introduce yourselves to each other in the Zoom chat. Let's use that space right now just to let people know where you're connecting from in the world. And as well, if you have a business, by all means, let us know the business link. Or if you would rather people follow you on your Instagram, for instance, just put some information in there. Let's not only use this as a training opportunity, but also as a networking opportunity. While you're doing that, I'll take a moment to acknowledge that I am connecting to this workshop from the Bay of Quinte region, which is outside of Kingston, where Queens is located, but I am working from home. And this is the traditional hunting, fishing, and gathering territory of the Huron, the Anishinaabe, and the Haudenosaunee peoples. And as a woman with Manitoba Métis roots myself, it is always such an honor and a privilege to be mindful that my family and I are living, working, and playing on these ancestral lands. So welcome today, wherever you are connecting from. Thank you for those of you who are connecting in the chat. So without further ado, we want to hand the virtual microphone today over to Simone and Lori, who are going to be taking us through this workshop on women and wealth. So ladies, take it away.
Yeah, Lori, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. Hi, my name is Lori Tibbo. I'm a financial planner at Bank of Montreal. I've been a financial planner for 17 years now, and with the bank for over 20. I am a single mom of two daughters. So the women aspect of the world is obviously very important to me. I like to think of myself as a pretty strong woman and fight for equal rights, equal pay, everything for women. And I really, really try to instill that into my two daughters. Yeah, I've worked with Simone for actually over 10 years now. We've worked in the same area and district for a long time. Yeah, that's pretty much me. I'm pretty much an open book. And I'll tell you everything or anything that you probably don't want to know. Simone's going to do a great job here leading it off for you. And then I will follow up at the end.
Awesome. Thanks, Lori. Yeah, so I will tell you that Lori's not lying when she says she's an open book. You can ask her anything and she will answer you. So I can vouch for that. So good morning. Thank you all for coming. Happy Friday Eve. Happy December. So my name is Simone Hasselaar. I'm a business banking relationship manager with BMO. I was born and raised in the Kingston area, originally from Wolf Island, and now I reside in Verona with my partner Nathan and our dog and our cat. I've been with BMO for 9 years, the first 4 of which I spent in retail banking as a client service representative at a variety of branches from Napanee to Elgin, but mostly in Kingston. In 2017, I made the transition to business banking as a client service officer in Kingston for 3 years. And then for the past 2 years, I've been a treasury and payment specialist in the Belleville and Kingston area. In September of this year, I assumed the role of relationship manager for Kingston, Perth, Verona, and Westport. I'm so excited to get out into the market and help local business owners in the town that I love achieve their full potential. So Mel, if you can, thank you so much. So at Bank of Montreal, we recognize that women entrepreneurs have different needs and face different challenges than their male counterparts. Today, we're hoping to be able to give you some peace of mind around some of these points regarding the current climate for women business owners. So a few facts regarding the current climate. So women-owned businesses across all industries are taking nearly twice as long to recover from the financial setbacks brought on by COVID-19 compared with businesses owned by men. Women take on more child and elderly care as well as household chores, sometimes at the expense of careers and businesses. It took Canadian women-owned businesses 10 weeks to begin to rebound, while it took Canadian men-owned businesses 5 weeks to begin their recovery. Research also showed that female-owned businesses are more concerned about cash flow, debt, and overwhelming stress than their male counterparts. Mel, can you put to the next slide, please? Perfect. So today we're going to take a look at a few key points that will help ensure that you're comfortable in managing your finances. So we're going to look at why a cash flow strategy is necessary, why having a financial plan is important, and some helpful tips and tools for taking control of your own finances. Next slide, please. Perfect. Sorry, my slides just closed on me.
If you adjust your view of the screen, we can still see the slides.
No, my slides on my computer.
Oh,
my slides with my notes.
with your notes.
Little technical difficulty. I apologize. One moment, please.
Welcome to the Zoom lights, everyone. Welcome to it.
I think that I may have accidentally deleted the slide. Okay, perfect. Awesome. So now the slide that I have up here is the current climate for women business owners with the 4 stats.
Yes, because you had went to the agenda, so I just went ahead. So I can keep this one for you. And so the agenda, we really wanted to talk about why cash flow was important. And then really it's to do with business intel. So if the universal real estate mantra is location, 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 business intel might be the mantra for business owners. And that's why what these 3 ideas have in common. So you can clearly, manage cash flow through business cycles once you understand it, and it helps you identify potential gaps. And so, Simone, I'm going to let you get into slide number 6, but I can take it if you're there now.
Perfect. So this is okay.
Yes.
So, excuse me. Sorry, just a little hiccup there. So business intel. So tracking your profitability and knowing what your cash flow looks like on a month-to-month basis can help you plan in advance of those times when financing is required. Understanding the timing of when dollars come in the door, but also when dollars go out, can help you formalize business processes and even provide leverage when dealing with suppliers, vendors, or customers. Cash flow reports and forecasts can act as an early warning system and help you spot trends in your business that may have gone unnoticed, which can happen when you're spending time running your business as opposed to working on your business. We all know that running a business involves a lot of running the business, right? So there are a multitude of reports, forecasts, spreadsheets, etc., that you can and probably should be keeping track of on a regular basis. And you need some to create the others, but today we'll focus on cash flow and profit and loss statements. Creating a cash flow report for your business is crucial. Just like you create a personal budget to manage your finances at home, you want to be able to create a budget for your business as well to ensure that you're optimizing your funds, and your cash flow report will help you do just that. Sorry, that one. Yeah, that's the one I'm on there. So profit and loss is a snapshot of what operations look like at a given time and is done on an accrual accounting basis, recording revenue immediately when goods and services are provided and expenses when they occur. Cash flow budgeting will show the time differences in actual receipts and disbursements of cash. Here's a simple visual example before we get into the numbers. Pardon me. Since your business may be quite predictable in regards to when goods and services are provided, a profit and loss snapshot, also known as a net income statement, will look very orderly and will provide a seemingly predictable projection based on the accrual accounting method. Also, if the business is growing month over month, one could assume that the revenue on a monthly or quarterly basis is also strong. However, as you'll see next, the timing of cash flow may tell a different story. Your business may be predictable, but suppliers, vendors, customers, and sometimes even salespeople aren't always predictable in the same way. Let's face it, we as humans are unpredictable. Life is unpredictable. And if we just look at the past 2 years, we can see that. This impacts your cash flow. The timing of the services may stay the same, but the cash in the door and the cash out the door can give you new insights into what your business and bottom line actually look like. It's important to remember that the timing of goods or services provided hasn't changed. A profit and loss report is a helpful way to look at a snapshot of your business, since it is where you record sales and expenses as they recur, but it has its limitations. For instance, this method of accounting doesn't take into account when dollars are received or take into consideration when the expenses that go into a sale are paid out, which can be an issue when there is a negative month. Even successful businesses can record a loss over a month, like this business did in March. Yes, there was a great rebound in net profit in April, but the profit and loss report doesn't indicate the timing of cash in and cash out, which can be a problem. If you don't have a profit and loss report yet, now is the time to create one. Next slide, please. The next critical component to having a very clear picture of cash flow is plotting out when cash actually comes in the door, how much comes in at a time, and where it's coming from. In this case, the majority of dollars received are between 30 and 60 days. In some cases, you're waiting roughly 3 months to get paid. When it comes time to do some advanced business planning, knowing these timeframes will be key, and working to standardize them will be a huge benefit. Some other information that is important to have ready is aggregated production and purchasing schedule, selling expenses, loan information such as payments and interest, and other long-term debt. It's also important to note that different forms of cash outflow occur on varying schedules, regularly on a weekly or monthly basis, and can also be variable with sales volume, which means they are regular but intermittent. So fast forward to the results. Should your cash outflows be greater than your receipts, then you have an early warning that some action should be taken. We'll walk through a month's example. May's budgeted amounts were based on a previous month's actual results, but the real story is understanding the actual column. If you recall from our profit and loss table, the business had $50,000 in sales, but because of the timing of receipts from previous months, the business brought in $70,000, not shown here. Why do we see a negative cash flow at the bottom? The business's monthly cash flow surplus is negative because labor, materials, overhead, and selling expenses, including a bonus to a salesperson, had to be paid out. This totaled $75,500, which exceeded the dollars that came in the door. As we've said several times, it's the timing of cash in and cash out that counts. Some helpful tips: cash sales can be logged into the cash flow statement in the same month that they're generated. Credit sales aren't credit card sales, which are treated as cash, but rather invoice sales with agreed upon terms. Refer to your accounts receivable records and determine your average collection period. If it's 30 days, then sales made by credit can't be logged into cash until 35 or 40 days after they're made. Although the collection period is 30 days, you still have to deposit the money and draw on another bank to receive payment. So I'm going to pause here, see if there's any questions. I know that I'm throwing a lot of information at you right now. So does anyone have any questions?
If you do, you can drop them in the Zoom chat. I'll just ask, do you have templates for what you've just shown that you can, if someone reached out, that you could provide, like a blank template?
I'm going to refer that to Melanie because I'm not sure the answer of that. For like the cash flow statement, you mean?
Yeah, on any website, are there examples that people could just download and complete for their business?
Yeah. I'm sure that I could find one. Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. And we're going to share the links at the end with everyone, because we have BMO for Women business site with different podcasts and a cash flow example and how to create it yourself.
Okay, thanks, Melanie.
And I apologize, speaking and trying to get the slides timed is a little bit challenging. So I do apologize in advance, and I'll get right back to the slide we were at.
So just so everyone knows, Melanie has to leave the slides if she wants to speak, because that's what Zoom is requiring her to do today. So she's managing the slides in the background. So you're doing a great
Tammy,
job.
I saw your question, Tammy. Would this be something I could do in my accounting software? It should be something that you're able to do in your accounting software. All right. Carrie, do you see any more questions or hands up or anything?
No, not at the
No.
moment.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. So profitability versus cash flow. So profitability provides the overall picture of the business, while cash flow tracks the inflow and outflow of cash from a business. Both are crucial aspects of your business. Cash flow is the inflow and outflow of cash from a business. You can clearly manage cash flow through business cycles. Cash flow budgeting shows the timing differences in actual receipts and disbursements of cash. This can help you identify potential financial gaps. Sorry, I don't know if my screen just froze. Profit in terms of dollars, while good, isn't always an indicator of profitability. Profit margins provide a more realistic perspective as they track the ratio between net income and sales. This is a more reliable indicator of the long-term growth and viability of a business. Your net profit margin indicates how efficient you are at converting sales into profits. Your gross profit margin indicates the profitability of a particular product or service. While it measures how efficient your company is at manufacturing and distributing its products, it doesn't consider your general business expenses. Gross profit margins are generally used to compare companies within the same industry. What's considered a good margin varies industry by industry. Service-based businesses such as consulting companies or law firms usually have a higher net profit margin than manufacturers or retailers. Your operating earnings are the revenue less the cost of goods sold, labor, and other day-to-day expenses related to your company's core business operations. Operating margins are important because they measure efficiency. And the higher the operating margin, the more profitable your core business is. Generally, the operating margin is used to measure management's success in managing expenses, as they generally have more control over operating expenses than sales expenses. Net income provides a single bottom line number to measure a company's performance and is one of the most closely followed numbers in finance. But remember, net income is not a measure of how much cash a company earned during a given period. And while net income is closely tracked, the margins provide a clear indication of your company's profitability. Debt service coverage ratio is the main ratio used by every bank. It is the measurement of a company's cash flow to pay for its ongoing debt obligations. A simple definition of debt service coverage ratio is net income after tax plus depreciation plus amortization plus interest payable on existing and future debt divided by all principal loan repayments required plus interest payable on existing and future debt plus paid dividends. Often the benchmark we like to see this ratio is 1.25 to 1, or $1.25 in net cash income for every $1 in debt payments required, such as principal plus interest and dividends. We look at this when reviewing loan requests to see if they can afford the loan. Companies can use this as a guide to how much debt to take on.
Melanie, sorry, I dropped you a note. In the Zoom chat, we're seeing two slides at once. Is anyone else seeing that?
Yeah, that's why I thought that I might.
Yeah, Melanie, I don't know why, but we're seeing an overlap of two slides every time at the same time. So we can't really see what's on the slides, just to let you know.
It's like it's doing the fade in, but it's.
Yeah, I don't know why we're seeing two. It's like, I think I'm losing my vision.
Well, if you're losing yours, we all are, I think.
Okay, I was like, is this just me or?
Let's see if this is better. I'm just loving technology today. The slides are skipping ahead.
It started out okay, but okay, yeah. Just put it, let's give it a shot again. Okay, we can see that
That's
one.
Better.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Perfect. So let's clear up some of the mystery of working with business bankers like me and discuss the key factors that aid in successful collaboration. So first, the factors. Together, we will discuss your personal credit score, your personal net worth, business risk, as well as undergo a thorough financial statement analysis of the business. Second, what to bring to our meeting. Bring your business plan, forecasts and assumptions, financial statements, as well as your personal net worth statement. A general rule of thumb for business forecasts and projections is that they match the term of the loan requested. So for example, if you're looking for a 5-year term loan, provide a 5-year forecast for the business.
Can you still see the
No,
slide?
no.
Yeah, we've got the double
doubled
slide
again.
as well. Again.
Interesting when I move ahead 1 second.
Oh, that's good.
Do you want me to go back into presentation mode? Is that
Yeah.
better?
Now
Yeah,
we
that's
can
good.
see it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Might have to do that every time.
So as a business, it's important to know when to ask for financing and what sources of financing are best for the stage you're in. A traditional bank usually doesn't get involved in business financing until you're at the growth stage when your business is clearly viable. A bank can also work with you to fund expansion or maintain an established business. But this doesn't mean that we shouldn't talk earlier. I can be a valuable source of information for other financing options. In addition to that, we want to make sure that your personal financial advisor is aware of how your business plan fits into your personal financial plan. So with that being said, I would like to take this opportunity to pass the mic over to Lori. Lori's going to spend some time today sharing why having your personal financial plan is important. As you can see, bankers also look at your personal net worth, and your personal financial advisor plays an integral role in helping you grow your personal net worth. So Lori, over to you.
Simone, just before we make that transition, and
Yes.
a quick question. You mentioned other financing options. So, I mean, a lot of women are in the startup phase and they're like,
Yeah.
they can't get a loan, they can't get a grant. What are those other financing options because I think those are of great interest to people, unless it's going to be covered, in the presentation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I'm going to take that one, Carrie. It's
Absolutely.
Melanie. And just because I've helped female entrepreneurs for 10 years in business banking, and I want to just say that there's a couple ways where we can help women entrepreneurs in the seed and startup if their business is really viable and they have that strong personal net worth and personal credit score, as long as the business plan has feasible projections. We don't like to overpromise and underdeliver, though. And so, yes, you're right. If a grant isn't available, what else is? And we often use BDC, the Business Development Bank of Canada, as a partner to sometimes jointly provide working capital. And so what I will say is the first step is to really get a good business plan and cash flow projections. And I will say that the Kingston Economic Development Board, they've sent us about 4 referrals as of late, and we've been able to help every time. And the product that we were able to help with was called a BMO credit line. And it's in the name of the business, but joint with the business owner, because it's in more of a startup or pivoting phase where there's a different revenue stream. And so what we look at is projections and also the personal credit score of the guarantor, of the owner who's going to have that stake in the business. So I just wanted to add that's why Simone mentioned we should always be talking early on, because it really does depend on the type of business you're operating. We'll look at who are your direct competitors, and that's why that business plan is important. So I hope that answered the question, but we do have products for seed and startup. You need to have that business plan and understand your cash flow and your projections.
Great, that helps a lot. That's one of the biggest questions we get. What do I do? Nobody gives me money and no one will give me a grant. So what do I do until I get there? So it's a lot of bootstrapping. We do tell them that. But you're saying that it's worthwhile having conversations. So
absolutely. Males will often go into the bank with a small business plan, and they'll ask. Women, on the other hand, are always afraid to ask, and that's a stat that's proven. It's in many reports. So we want women to come in and ask. Don't be afraid. Start the conversation early, and we'll be transparent.
Great advice. Thank you so much. And thanks. Anne has also dropped some helpful information to the Zoom chat. Over to you, Lori.
Yeah. So I think that's really important. And I think the starting early and asking, I think we've evolved as a banking system. It's funny how many people I talk to from on a personal side. I deal with some business owners, but I think it's really funny how many people remember coming into the bank and asking for $5,000 for this or that, and they still deal with the bank that gave them that $5,000 and have the trust, and it was a lot easier to get $5,000 or a proportional amount 20 or 30 years ago. You basically just had to offer up one of your cows in your farm as collateral. So I think that the world is evolving, and the business world especially is evolving, where business owners are being given more opportunity to start the business, government-wide and banking-wide for sure. And I think it's really encouraging because I find that this next generation that's coming in, they're really not afraid. Women, the next generation of females, are not afraid to ask anymore. And I look at my daughters. I have a 13 and 11-year-olds, and I call them trouble and more trouble. And I'm trying to teach them, to have that confidence, that women can do anything a man can do. And if they plan properly. Gary, you made a mention about being a planner. Well, it's in my title. So that I really have been a planner my whole life. I didn't plan my divorce, although some people would say I probably did, but planning is so important, and it'll just speak and fall into my role here. So we're on the slide that says financial advisors are failing women. I'd like to say that I'm working really hard to make sure that we're not. 73% of women report being unhappy with their financial services industry. 80% of women switch advisors within a year of their husband's death. And I think that one is so important because it's that older generation that has kind of always said, oh, he just makes the decisions, right? And so when I have a husband and wife that come into me, I really try to speak to both of them and make the wife understand. And I also say to them, if Mr. Brown passes away, you come see me. We'll make sure you're okay. We'll be there for you. 80% of women look for an advisor, say they can't find one they connect with. And that is actually very true. I would say the first half an hour of my first meeting with a potential client is networking, just like you said, that networking piece, getting to know them, getting to know their family members, learning their family members' names, because you wouldn't believe how many people, when they come in and they knock on my door and they say, hey, do you have a minute? You would be surprised how many people say, oh my gosh, I can't believe you remember that. They know I have 300 clients and they think I've added a value to them to say, oh my goodness, like Lori remembered that my husband was going through cancer treatments. That's remarkable. Like, how did she remember that? Right. So it's very important to make that connection. It's personal. It's a personal connection. Money is personal. So Simone, you have your hand up. Is that right?
She's giving you a
You're
hard
not allowed to speak. You're not allowed to speak during my side. I'm sorry. During your side.
I just want to reiterate your point that the big thing about us is that we're humans first and bankers second, right? So we know that your businesses are so important to you. It's your livelihood. And we don't want to look like robots. We don't want you to think that we're not people, right? We're people first. And we understand we come from that human connection. And that's so important, like Lori's saying, is to make that connection to our clients. And we do, like, we want our clients to succeed. We want to help you to reach your full potential. So yeah, I just wanted to reiterate how important what Lori is saying is.
Yeah. And I think even more so as, type A strong female, we want our female entrepreneurs to kick the men's butt, right? Like we want them to win. And be successful. And it makes us happy when our clients succeed for sure. So the next slide, in my experience of occupations, the common goals and among women revolve around your family, your lifestyle, your investment, and retirement. And really, this is so true because if I think in my own with a 13 and 11-year-old, educating my children is probably my number one goal right now. Those goals all move together, right? But at the same time, I'm 45 and I would love to retire at 55. I'm looking closer to 60 now that I'm divorced, but I also have to make sure I'm planning for that piece too, right? While there are some consistent issues among women, there are also differing concerns. So again, that potential family issues, kids' education. I want to help my kids out now rather when I'm gone. That is a huge one for my clients from a grandchildren perspective, because let's face it, most of my clients are senior clients, and they want to help out their kids get an education. They understand the value of an education in today's world, that you basically can't be successful if you don't attain that university degree or the trade school education. I know that's probably what Queens doesn't want to hear, but we all going to need plumbers, right? So it is important to them to help their family. Health, that's another one, right? Will my husband and I be able to pay for our health care when we age? That is a big one with retirement. I meet with a lot of people as they're getting closer to retirement, and they're thinking, do I take the commuted value from my pension, which is take the pension out of the pension plan and manage it yourself? Or do I stay in the pension plan because of the healthcare associated with that? The answer is a lot of businesses are switching from a healthcare or from a pension plan more to a group RSP idea. And I think that's going to be more increasingly popular as we go through business and go through the next couple of generations, because the administration on a pension for a company is so expensive. And let's face it, as a self-employed individual, you're not going to have a pension plan. So you really have to look at the healthcare. You can have all the money in the world, and if you don't have your health, it just doesn't make you live longer. So potential lifestyle issues, activities. Will I be able to continue to enjoy the things that I love to do if my investments go down? Extracurricular activities. Will my kids be able to continue to play sports? I don't know if anybody has any kids in rep hockey, but it's ridiculously expensive. I just bought a horse, and I'm not kidding. I actually just bought a horse for my daughter who horseback ride. They eat a lot. They cost a lot, and lessons are expensive. So, if the markets change, and if I were to find myself unemployed, or in your business realm, if you have, look at COVID, right? If your business gets shut down, you're self-employed, can you afford to do these things still through a COVID shutdown of a hair salon or a nail salon or whatever your self-employed business? If you were a self-employed courier, you would be doing very good right now. Education. Will I be able to put my kids through private schools? That's a reality, right? Education costs at post-secondary is one thing, but if you want them to get that high quality of education to achieve the post-secondary realized goals that they have, do you have the capacity to put 2 kids through private schools to ensure that they're getting the quality of education that you're expecting? Potential investment issues, control. I don't have the time to be involved with my portfolio decisions, and that is so true in entrepreneurs. You guys don't have the time. Your job is to focus on your business and grow your business. My job is to have that trusting relationship and make sure that your investments and the decisions that you're making on your investments are sound and appropriate. However, will I be able to maintain control? Don't. I'm a control freak too. You let me do it. Appropriate investments. How do I know what's appropriate? Well, again, that's a conversation with a qualified financial planner to make sure that you guys are coming up with a investment plan and a retirement plan that's appropriate for you and realistic. So the next slide, Amel, I don't know if I'm not looking at the slides, so I'm not sure if you're on the next slide or not, but we talk about women's goals, needs, and concerns in general. When we speak about specifically about investing, women want accessibility. Women want access and connection to their investments and their investment professional. When they feel disconnected, they switch to another investment professional or medium. That's important, right? We have a job to do. Again, to me, my clients, it's a personal connection, and it's very important that it fits. Holistic advice for long-term investment goal planning. One reason that women feel excluded from conversations about their family wealth is that the conversations or material are directed at their male counterpart or a man's needs, while the women aim to focus on the big picture and prefer to deal with long-term investments. So again, we think of the future. A lot of studies and statistics show that men think in the now. We think about those, when our child is born, about educating them. Are they going to be successful? I spend a lot of sleepless nights just waiting for my children and wanting my children to be successful. And it's a very different thought. The men, it's more, we got them here. Okay, let's get them educated. But beyond that, they're really not thinking if their kids are going to be okay if they're not around. I think that's more of a maternal instinct. And I might be biased again because I'm divorced, but my fear when I got divorced was, were my kids going to be okay? I think my ex-husband's fear was he going to be okay? And that's just the difference of how we think, right? And women's views. Money is a way to care for themselves and their family and improve their lives. Women tend to take a longer view of wealth accumulation and spending positions against the long-term family and retirement objectives rather than chasing immediate returns. And that, again, it speaks to that longevity of the money as opposed to being able to afford something now, right? When you guys are building businesses, you're not building the business for today and to make a lot of money today, because as you know, that takes a couple years before you start to see, black on your profit loss statement versus red. And that's natural, but we worry about the steps to get there. 61% of women tell us that losing their spouse, passing or divorce, was a real wake-up call for them. It drove them to the importance of being financial aware and independent. And I couldn't agree more. Like I said, I went into overdrive of making sure that my children were okay after my divorce. I think older parents even worry about their adult children when their father passes. It's a different feeling. Usually when the mother passes, the children worry about the dad being okay emotionally, and being able to cook the meals. And that's this generation. I think the next couple of generations will be very different. I know the partner that I have, he does all the cooking in my house. So, it's not where I'm not worried about if he'll be able to make a good meal when I'm gone, versus, an adult child, maybe that dad never really did any of the cooking, and is he going to eat Kraft dinner for the rest of his life, and is it going to be crunchy, right? So we definitely think differently. We think more emotional, and we think more family oriented than our men. So some tips and tools for taking control of your finances: have a business plan and then update your cash flow and forecasting as you need. Work with your personal and business bankers together to make sure that your business plan and financial plan complement each other. And I think that's kind of one thing that BMO does really well. We have a very good relationship between our personal banking and our business banking. They mesh very well together. They're very complementing online. And then to take it one step further, when planning on the business side, on the lending side for the businesses, getting together with me, the financial planner, to kind of see what their financial plan looks like, to ensure that we're not all focused on, I got to put all the money into the business. It's okay to borrow to kind of generate that business cash flow in the beginning, while at the same time planning for retirement.
Lori, I'm just going to signal to Melanie that the slides are overlapped again. Maybe we can Oh, there we go. That's great.
Operate your business as a business, right? So try to take the emotional side of the business out of the business. Read the fine print, embrace technology, be security conscious, and outsource what you can. Those are all very important things. Like I said, take your financial plan. It's never, I guess we go back here to your point about it's never too early to have a conversation. It is never too early to have a financial planning conversation. I talked with a young girl last week, self-employed physiotherapist, just out of university. She's 25 years old. What just a go-getter she is. She asked me, what do I have to save for retirement. I said, oh my gosh, you're 25, right? She's self-employed, whether she stays self-employed or not. It's never too early to have that conversation of the saving process, and how to, save money at the same time. Because when you teach yourself those skills of being able to save, you will never run out of money in retirement. Because the hardest thing for one of my clients to do is to go from save their whole careers to spend in retirement. And that not only creates the capacity for the retirement income flow, but it creates the capacity to not overextend yourself. And then you don't do it in retirement too. And what I mean by that is the people with the government jobs with the good pensions that have the fancy trucks and all the bells and whistles and everything, and they're overextending themselves now. Yes, the government is forcing them in their career to save for retirement and forcing themselves to have a cash flow in retirement, but it's not going to be enough. So if we're disciplined with our savings and our spending during our career, we will also be disciplined with our savings and spending in retirement too, to ensure that you're not running out of money. Anyways, that's it for me. I don't know if it's Simone or Melanie, but I'm sure we have some questions or whatever you want to ask away.
All right. So if you'd like to ask a question, you can come off mute since we have a nice sized group today, or raise your hand and I can call on you, or you can put your question in the Zoom chat and I can bring it up to the team as well. Yes. Some great points about saving, investing, and really what I hear is this message that we just need to take control. We just need to make the appointment, whether there are small business owners obviously on the call, large business owners, as well as perhaps some of you who are in a career looking to transition into entrepreneurship. And it's never too early to have that conversation.
Absolutely. I'm looking in the chat and just seeing great conversation, and some people are making the points that the financial information comes all to their husbands. I was single for a very long time. I lived on my own. I was very independent, and I lived with my partner for 2 years now, which took some getting used to. But it's funny that I noticed how much people talk to him about things, and then he'll just look at me, and I'm like, listen, I'm the financial expert here, right? And it's just so crazy that in 2021 people are still doing that.
Yeah, it's a cultural shift that needs to happen. And honestly, the first step is for us to step up and say, that's not how it's going to work. So yeah, that's very important. Okay, so question, maybe Simone or Lori, you could put in a note, how do people book a call? How would they set up? So if one of you could just put that information into the chat. How much, Ruth is asking, how much would you recommend to save monthly? And I can imagine that's probably something about what your goals are, but who would like to take that?
Yeah, I'll do that. So it really, Ruth, it does depend on what your spending is like now. Your needs for money is now, is really, they say when you retire, well, I mean, look at COVID, right? We've all kind of worked from home and we've definitely saved a little bit of extra money, but expenses and the saving aspect change a little bit during retirement. But I always say to people what they're spending now, depending on how close they are to retirement. If you're within 5 years to retirement, then it's probably going to look pretty similar in retirement. I think the important thing is, and I know it's a very big challenge now, real estate. Buy a home sooner than later, if you can. I think the challenges are definitely there in the real estate market now, because what that does, if you buy a house at 30 and you're retiring at 55 or 60 or 65, a 25-year mortgage is paid off by that. So be diligent with that. I will tell you that the one thing that my parents taught me was pay down your mortgage, pay off your mortgage, pay off your mortgage, pay off your mortgage at any cost. That's changed, right? My parents were part of a generation where their interest rates were 14 and 15 and 16%. So they had no choice but to pay it off because of what they were paying out in interest. You can borrow to buy a house, and I'm not a lender, but I'm pretty sure it's in the 3% range, the 2.5% to 3% range right now. that's a little different. My conversation then becomes, do I pay down my mortgage or do I invest the money? If I'm making more than 3%, then I'm telling you to save the money and continue to pay your mortgage, because if the mortgage is paid off by the time you retire, then that's a positive thing. And don't panic that you might have a mortgage in retirement either, because I think it's a very realistic thing nowadays. And again, because interest rates are so low, you're going to grow a lot more equity in the home as inflation and housing prices stay high. But you basically just need to start with something, is what I would say is the answer to that, what you can afford. And depending on how close you are to retirement, your expenses and your cash flow needs would be very similar to they are now. And that would kind of determine, people used to say this $1 million number, right? I need $1 million to retire. Well, you need $1 million of cash flow, but what they don't realize that some of these pension plans, especially someone like Queen's, $700,000 to $800,000 of your monthly cash flow needs are going to be wrapped up in that pension plan. And then you add CPP and OAS, right? In Canada, those are at full capacity, they're about $1,500 to $1,600 a month, right? So, that's a big chunk of what your income needs. It's really not, I need $1 million to retire. It's, I need $1 million of cash flow over 20 to 30 years to live. So yeah, I would say, depending on the RSP idea for a self-employed individual really does give you the opportunity to save in a higher income bracket and retire when you retire, withdraw that money, because you won't have a traditional pension, and then you will be in a lower income tax bracket. But if you're 25, I don't know the age of the person that asked that question, start with $200 a month and see how it grows. There's some great calculators on our website, on BMO's website, under the investment and financial planning tabs, that shows you, they're called CSP, continuous savings plan calculators. That will show you, if you save $200 a month, what it will be in 25 years, just on the compounding and the contribution. So start with what you can afford, and then work from there. The younger you start, the more you'll have.
Yeah, and the only thing I would add, it's Melanie, just on the business side, because I know it's overwhelming when you're starting a business, because you want to hit the milestones first sometimes. And what I'm saying is, build into your projections and cash flow variable and fixed expenses, and make your retirement non-negotiable, like more of a fixed expense, so that you do have that savings, and build it in. Many business owners don't have a business plan that works with their personal financial plan, and it's just about the business. And then when you start hitting your profit, you start thinking about it then, and you could have maybe built in that 150 to 200 a month into your projections. So I think that's really important, and I just wanted to add that. So Ruth, great question, because it's always hard to know where to start. And when you're building projections for your company, or you have a new revenue stream coming in, it's like, well, I just want to hit the break-even point first. Part of, you need to pay yourself too. So, and I know many business owners don't in the beginning, but build that in and work with your, calculators, your accountant, financial planner, bookkeeper, to make sure that you can put a fixed amount there for yourself, because later on it will work out. It's not going to make a huge. So
good point. Melanie, maybe we can X out of the slides, since we're not using them, and then we can see the faces on the screen. But also, one of you, Lori, I think, mentioned the continuous savings plan calculator. And if one of our BMO partners could put that on into the Zoom chat, that would be helpful, so somebody doesn't have to Google it. It can just be there. There was also a question about charitable donations, which is great. The question is, from Jennifer, is it possible to briefly touch base on charitable donations early on in new business operations? So Jennifer, I don't know if you want to come off a mute. Is it a good idea or a bad idea what amount or percentage should you be thinking about giving to charity? That is such a woman question. Can I just say, like, that is not usually at the top of the list. I'm just going to say for most male-owned businesses.
Yeah, that's a great question. At BMO, we love giving back, right? So it's a great question for us. I think, I don't know if Melanie or Lori would be better suited to answer that question. Regards to.
I can try to chime in. That's an accountant question. And it would be based on, I guess how much you're writing off on the business. I know that's not the reason for doing a charity donation, but it has more to do with the write-off. And I would not know the percentage that would benefit you on a business side. I don't know if you do or not, Melanie. I know like to Simone's point, BMO's really big on United Way, and definitely fundraising and charities are very important to us. I have a father that is in a nursing home with dementia, so Alzheimer's is very important to me. I had an aunt that passed away with cancer, so I definitely have the charities that are very important to me. I can't say that they make a huge difference when I do my tax return from an accounting perspective. That just personally, I'm not sure on the business side, and unfortunately, that would be a question maybe for an accountant, unless Melanie, you have some insight on that.
Yeah, no, it is a question for the accountant, and we would work closely with an accountant. And we actually have business owners that I worked with when I was in the Burlington market that left a legacy, and their whole legacy was around charity. And they wanted to make sure that they set up the legal entities properly. So then we worked with our specialists, because we do have an arm of a private wealth team that helps with that. And that's more so when you're trying to leave that legacy. So work with your accountant on that question. And then, yeah, if you want to leave that legacy, there's definitely, all banks have a private wealth arm that could help with that, and work with your accountant and lawyer to set it up correctly, just so you get the full tax advantage and you get the money directly to the charity where you want it.
Right, good question. Tammy has also asked a question about, which is I'm sure very familiar to many, which is this idea of she gave up sort of a government related job. She took her locked-in pension out of the fund to work for herself, and now she doesn't really have a plan. So my instinct is like and Tammy, I don't know if you've sat down with a financial planner, but I wonder if that, I don't know, ladies, is that what your first advice will be?
Absolutely.
Like, I can't figure this stuff out on my own. I know that for sure.
Yeah, and that's what we do, right?
That's exactly what we do. Tammy, to answer your question, yes, that is what I do when clients are either close to retirement or forced. I find the people that are forced to take that commuted value in their pension as a locked-in account, it's actually a positive thing for you. You can grow a pension plan. The issue with pension plans themselves is that they're not customized to you. It's the organization, right? You might, and you're paying into it equally based on salary and stuff, but the pension is invested for everybody, not you. And you might have a completely different risk tolerance compared to the 30-year-old sitting next to you at the office. So yes, if you want to, obviously all of our contact information will be shared, I would assume. Please reach out to me and we can take a look at your plan and see if you're on pace. You definitely will now need to start saving on your own. But that pension that you played into at the government will definitely play a big part of your retirement income for sure. But that's exactly what I do. We sit down, we review those investments, we review the pension and the locked in, and we come up with a strategy to make sure that you're still going to be as comfortable as you would have been if you stayed in that government job. And good for you for going it on your own. I think that's fantastic.
Can I ask another real quick question? Should this personal aspect and the business aspect, should they be at the same financial institution or same organization, or should they be separate?
Yeah, it's so funny you say that, because a lot of my customers on the business side keep it separate, but I'll let Simone talk about that. I don't really think there's a logical reason. I think people think that if their business fails, that, any creditors can't get at their personal side if it's at a different bank. I think that transparency between institutions has really kind of disappeared and has evolved, that it doesn't really make any sense. And you are dealing with different people on the business side and the personal side within any institution. And it actually, I think, helps to have that connection so that someone like Simone and myself can work together to make sure that the business is successful and your financial planning and your personal side is successful too. But Simone, please add on to that. I kind of took that away from you.
Yeah, no problem. Like Lori said, with keeping the businesses and the business and the personal separate at different financial institutions, I think that's kind of, it's an older mentality. So like from years ago, that I think was instilled into people that just hasn't been addressed. So in the age of online banking and digital banking, to have everything at one financial institution. So we have a platform at BMO, it's called Online Banking for Business. And you can see, if you have everything with BMO, you have your business accounts, you can have your personal accounts, you can have everything in one place. So you can see absolutely everything. You can pay your bills, you can transfer back and forth. And I think just in regards to something like that, it's easier to have everything at one place, instead of having 6 different logins at different financial institutions, right? You have your whole picture right there. And like Lori said, with BMO, I've been with BMO for 9 years. They're my family, right? Between business banking and retail banking, we develop those relationships, and our philosophy is that we're one bank. So yes, there's business banking, there's retail banking, there's financial planning, but we're one bank. We work collaboratively as one to ensure that we're providing the best service, the best experience to our clients. And we do have those relationships. We work well together to work well for you.
Yeah, and the only other thing I would add, just having the 20 years, Tammy, this is a great question and it comes up all the time. 20 years of retail and business banking. One thing is, when business owners are self-employed, when they go to apply for even a basic loan, people don't always understand how you pay yourself. When you have everything at one institution, we add comments all the time to say, this is how the business pays themselves. This is how the business is trending. We have that knowledge. If we have a personal relationship with a client that has a business elsewhere, those comments from maybe an RBC account manager won't hold weight with our personal credit department. So that's one of the biggest pros, I would say, in having everything under one bank, and it doesn't need to be BMO, is that your business banker can make comments because they actually review your business financials and they understand how business owners pay themselves. And you pay yourselves 3 ways. You either take a dividend, you take a T4 salary, right? Or you're repaying back a shareholder loan. And one of the key things is, when you inject money into your business, the shareholder loan is non-taxable. It doesn't show up on your personal income tax return. So only your business banker is going to see that in the financials and be able to add that, so that when you want to buy that house or a car or anything, that we can say they do actually have the income in the business. It's just not shown here traditionally the same way as it would if you got a salary, right? So that's the main key. And Tammy, I wanted to mention that because most women want access to be able to buy things. So when you have a split relationship, it's really hard to do that because not everyone sees the full picture.
Yeah. And it's nice to have someone that you can contact for anything, right? Like if you have all of your banking with us, you can call me and say, hey, Simone, I need to transfer money from my personal account, or my business account is a little overdrawn and I need to, like, you have the one point of contact for anything that you need, or the whole team, right? Like we work with what's called a deal team. So there's always someone to answer you. And Tammy, just in looking at your comment, you said it's scary. It is scary. I fully understand that. The future is scary. Just in thinking about it, it's overwhelming. And I just had made a comment that I'm 31. So to think about this year, when we enroll in our benefits every year, and it gives us our earliest retirement date. And it said, my earliest retirement date is June 16th, 2055. And just to think about that, I'm like, oh goodness, like I have to work that much longer. But then I'm like, that's not that long. It's really not. So I understand it is scary, and you're not alone in thinking that.
Yeah. Great questions, folks. I know we're at time right now. If Simone, Lori, and Melanie could put their contact information, as someone was asking for contact info, if you folks could maybe just put your email if you want to put your title as well, because I know you have slightly different titles, that might just help if anybody is looking to follow up. And so thank you so much on behalf of all of us for the questions and the time you took to answer them. I know this is just scratching the surface. We do realize there's not any possible way we could get to everything within an hour, but I hope that this gives you the permission to say, I need to set up an appointment with my own bank, with a whatever bank. We need to get this under control. And I was just thinking about this idea that knowledge is power. So when I'm afraid, my actual, I guess, reaction is let me find out about it so that I can feel more in control, right? And to have some information. And I believe there is power when you do that. So thank you so much for attending, everyone. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the call today. Have a great day. We hope
Thank
to see
you all.
again soon.
Thank you.